Hafaday, welcome to another episode of Pacific Matters. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tomas Maglonia, and on tonight's episode, we're heading to San Diego and Spain, where Chamorro perspectives are taking off. First, we sit down with Kylie Taitano, who's a Chamorro Filipina in San Diego. She's running for U.S. Congress there and shares her perspective and hopes on the campaign trail. Right now with Kylie Taitano, who's from Guam and running for congressional office in California, in San Diego. She joins us in the Zoom room now. Kylie, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, it actually is a little bit hard to hear you, so I'm sorry if I have to ask to repeat questions.
All right, no problem. We'll try to make sure you can hear us clearly. I did want to ask you, though, because you have such an interesting background and you announced this run. You're transitioning from one field to the other. You're a software engineer. You founded Code with Her, and you're seeking office for the U.S. House of Representatives in California's 50th Congressional District. Can you tell us why you decided to run for office in San Diego?
I did, and honestly, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I grew up listening to KUAM, so I feel a little starstruck right now. And I also just want to say to Chris, you were my childhood. So when we moved out to California, I put on Malfunction's first one like on repeat. Nice. Because I was so homesick. So I'm like a little starstruck right now.
Thank you so much. So flattered. We recorded this, right? Yeah. Okay, this is going to be on repeat for the rest of the week. Look for it on my Instagram. Thank you very much, Kylie.
Yes, but I'm running because we're out of time. You know, my generation, people's children's, grandchildren's generations are people on Guam. We're out of time. You know, the consequences of the climate crisis are here, but Guam is going to be on the front lines for that. We're feeling that here in San Diego with the threat of wildfires growing constantly bigger every year. My generation, we can't afford to think about our future because we are crushed by student debt. The cost of healthcare and housing and just living is skyrocketing. And we're watching our democracy crumble right before our very eyes. So honestly, life feels a little bleak right now. But I do believe that we need bold change and we need new leaders. We need a new Congress. And we especially need leaders who are not corrupt and not beholden to big corporations and money. So that's why I'm running for Congress.
And can you tell us more about your background and also your ties to Guam? You are a software engineer. You worked for Intuit, and I guess it's quite a shift to want to be a politician.
It is, so born and raised on Guam, half Filipina, half Chamorro. My Filipino grandparents are still there on the island. They're in Latte Heights. My grandma's listening right now, so hi, Grandma. And then my Chamorro side moved out here with us as well. But I grew up in Machinao. I went to Weddingale Elementary School, 1st through 5th grade. I went to Trinity Christian School in preschool and kindergarten. So definitely still remember, my time on Guam, especially since I still have family there. But I guess, it is a huge switch to politics. And I will have to say that, honestly, I don't think that I would have been given this opportunity to run if I never forgot where I came from. I always remember my time on Guam. And the one thing that I love about being Chamorro and our culture is that we are community first, right? And I tell on the campaign trail, I am telling people about Inafamelec, right? And how our community is based on respect and reciprocity and caring for each other. And I'm finding that that's actually resounding with a lot of the voters here. But in terms of how I got to this point, so I actually never meant to be in tech. I originally applied to UC San Diego as an aerospace engineer because I thought I wanted to work for NASA. But I had to apply for a second major, a backup major, which was computer science. And the only reason I chose that was because at the time I loved playing video games, didn't know anything about coding at all, and only knew that you needed a computer to create video games. So that's why I chose it. But honestly, by just a stroke of fortune, it was the career track that I think really I was meant to be in, because it has unlocked so much opportunity for myself. It's been able, being a software engineer has allowed me to like help take care of my family. I've been able to take care of myself, and really every time I've been given an opportunity in this career, I've always thought, okay, how can I give back to the community, right? So yes, I did work full time for Intuit. I'm actually working on the campaign full time right now. But prior to that, I was a software engineer. I worked on TurboTax. And so my job as a senior software engineer was to lead teams of software engineers to develop and deliver solutions for millions of Americans to help overcome their financial challenges. And so along the way, to my eventual career track as a software engineer, in tech, there isn't a whole lot of diversity. There's not a lot of women. There's not a lot of Pacific Islanders. There's not a lot of other minorities. But again, like seeing the benefits of being in tech has just driven me to think, okay, how can we open up these opportunities to other communities as well? Because going to school for computer science was really, really hard. Like, I didn't know that UCSD was one of the best computer science schools in the nation, if not the world. And although like my fellow classmates were really helpful, it was new. This was back in 2010 when like tech was just starting to come, to fruition. So, I thought, oh, man, I wish I learned this earlier. And so the way I got my start in being involved in like in giving back to the tech community was in 2011 when I was on the founding board of UCSD's Women in Computing organization. Our whole mission was to recruit and retain and support women in tech. So a lot of the work that I did was focused on outreach.
And Kylie, I did also want to ask you, before we get into some of the policies and how that relates to your expertise, I did want to ask you if you could just explain a little bit about where your district and a little bit about also the House of Reps. Is this the local House of Representatives for California? Can you just set the stage for us politically, what office you're running for and where it's situated?
Yes. So this is a federal office. I would be a congresswoman, just like Congressman Sablon and Congressman Nicholas. I would be actually able to represent not only just San Diego, but I would be able to work on federal law that affects everybody, including the territories. So that's why this, pursuing this campaign is extra special to me because as a Chamorro, like I will be able to lend a voice, like, and have an actual vote on the House floor. Of course, representing my constituents in San Diego, but also being able to bring my perspective as a Chamorro woman who grew up on Guam and all the issues that would affect the entire nation, including the territories. So the district is coastal San Diego. We did just get redistricted, so it's like all the coast of San Diego, but it includes inland areas like San Marcos and Escondido, and it is a heavily Democratic district. It actually got even more blue with the redistricting. So, I think the people here really want the kind of bold and progressive change that I've been fighting for at least for a few years now.
Welcome back. Here's more of our interview with Kylie. And so you've lived in San Diego for the past 11 years. I was looking at your campaign platform, and one of the things you write there very clearly is that you say, we can't expect the bold change we need from establishment politicians like Scott Peters. I'm not in San Diego. I don't know Scott Peters' politics, but I assume is he the incumbent that you're trying to take his seat from?
He is, yes.
And so I guess we're seeing, a rise of people like yourself pursuing office, challenging quote-unquote traditional politicians. How do you feel mounting this campaign? I assume that most of your efforts are grassroots, or is it?
It is, and it's exciting, you know, and really, again, like, I can't stress enough how much like being Chamorro has really influenced me and prepared me to take on something like this. I know it's going to be hard and it's going to be an uphill battle, but you know, I grew up in a culture where, you know, women make decisions, right? Like we have, you know, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, who's our governor now, and we have all of these women who make up the Guam legislature. Like ever since I was a kid, I've always seen like what strong female leadership looks like. So I think emotionally and mentally, that has helped me prepare to take on what I'm about to prepare. But yes, so Representative Scott Peters, you know, to give him credit, San Diego used to be heavily red, like very, very Republican. And when he won, he flipped the district blue. But since then, the types of decisions that he has made as a leader have been, I feel like, short-sighted and not really thinking about the future of San Diego. So as an example, because again, the climate crisis is just something that we're all going to face very, very soon. He voted against a version of the Build Back Better bill that would have dedicated $500 billion to fighting climate change. And that's huge. And he voted it down. Another one is with prescription drug prices. He voted against a version of the bill that would have allowed the government to negotiate down prescription drug prices, which, as we all know, is a huge part of our medical bills.
Yeah, Kylie, your campaign definitely spans a lot of those democratic platform issues, from the Green New Deal to healthcare for all, public education, and you also even mentioned immigration rights. I did want to ask you, though, have you ever thought about coming home and running here? I know you're just starting your political campaign, but has that thought crossed your mind?
I know, you know, my parents have joked about that. But, you know, I feel like it's just, I do miss home. Again, like being able to carry these values on the mainland has given me so much joy because people don't know about Guam. Like when I first moved out here, I honestly felt like I kind of had like a quasi-immigrant experience because I even had teachers who would say things like, "Oh, your English is good," or "Oh, you know, do you have power on Guam, or do you wear grass skirts, or do you live in grass huts?" And it's like, no, you know, no, we're a U.S. territory, right? You're supposed to be a teacher. But in any case, I think the pride that I have with being out here is being able to, again, lend a voice to our people because I mean, we all know, like, there was Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene who didn't know that we were U.S. territory. Like, how, oh gosh, like, that is just so really disappointing. And I think part of running out here is being able to, again, uplift our people, uplift our island, including CNMI, right? And being able to say, hey, we're here, we exist, we're a part of America as well.
And it's no secret, I think every Chamorro knows someone in San Diego. You know, it's one of the largest populations, California too, you know, outside of the actual islands here in the Northern Marianas and Guam. Is that also part of your outreach? Is that something your campaign is considering? I saw the map of your district for District 50, right? And yeah, what's the engagement like there? And is the Chamorro demographic in your district gonna be a major factor?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure if you all know this, but one of the biggest Chamorro festivals is held in San Marcos, which is part of my district. And I actually did some campaign work back there in 2016 for that event. Another part of the district, which I was even really excited about before I decided to run, was they're building the House of Chamorros in Balboa Park, which is one of the hugest, like it's one of the biggest parks in San Diego. It's kind of like Central Park, but not that big. But in any case, it gets like 2 to 3 million visitors a year. And so I was planning on volunteering for the House of Chamorros to, you know, again, be able to help spread our culture, to educate people about who we are.
And I guess, do you have a message to folks here at home who are listening to this? I mean, yeah, anything you'd like to say to fellow Guamanians?
Yes, I'm just really excited again at the opportunity to represent all of you. I really, really hope that I can make all of you proud. So I'm getting a little emotional. this is huge. It's huge for our people. Again, to be able to actually have like a platform to say like we are Chamorro, we're here. We're just not some small little island that only gets attention when military buildup or tensions happen. We are a people who care about community, and that's what I hope to really be able to campaign on and show. Not just San Diego, not just the people of Guam, but all of America of who we are. So I would really appreciate your support. You can find more information about me at KylieTitano.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I always make time for my people. So feel free to DM me on IG or Twitter or email, whatever.
All right, Kylie.
Thank you, Kylie.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch, and especially tracking your campaign and the progress you make. All right, thank you so much, Kylie, for your time. We'll be sure to keep track of your campaign. Don't go away just yet. Right after the break, we're going to be heading over to Spain, where a Chamorro cultural exhibit opened up at a national museum. We're so grateful to be joined now by Dr. Carlos Madrid, who's the director of the Micronesian Area Research Center at the University of Guam, and also the main facilitator from Guam of the exhibit in Spain, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Madrid, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Thomas. Thank you for the interview. It's a pleasure to be here and to be talking about this fantastic opportunity of showcasing Chamorro culture in Spain.
Yes, some exciting news. We saw those wonderful photos from the museum. It's entitled Biba Chamorro, showcasing the history and contemporary Chamorro culture of Guam and the Mariana Islands. Can you tell us how this all came to be?
Yes, it's a pleasure. In Spain, as part of the 500th anniversary of the circumnavigation of the Earth, there is the National Museum of Anthropology in Madrid, who has been organizing a series of exhibits about the contemporary culture of the countries that were visited by the expedition of Magellan Elcano in 1521, between 1519 and 1522. So they were organizing exhibits about Brazil, the culture in Brazil, the Pacific, and then they, of course, as part of that itinerary, they were planning and they were in the making. They were preparing an exhibit about the Chamorro culture, and that's where, along with universities in Spain and cultural agencies linked to the Ministry of Culture of Spain. That's how we connected with them. This series of exhibits, they call it "Let's Turn the World Around." And the idea is somehow presenting to the Spanish audiences, to the Spanish people, what is that culture in contemporary times of those territories, of those countries. And at the same time, not only in contemporary times, but seen through the eyes of the peoples themselves, like how in this case of the Chamorro exhibit, the Viva Chamorro exhibit, how do the Chamorro people see themselves? No? So the National Museum of Anthropology, in that sense, was constructing a platform for the Spanish people to see the Chamorro culture somehow firsthand and through the eyes of the Chamorro people. And that made it particularly interesting and compelling for Mark, for the Micronesian Area Research Center, and for the University of Guam. So we were very happy to take part on it.
Can you talk a little bit more about what came into mind when you were curating the space, and if there are any particular standout pieces or components of the exhibit that come to mind? I know that along with the exhibit, there also is a book that accompanies it, Y Historiata Guam, the Mariana Islands, and Chamorro Culture. And so if you could explain some of the motivations there and the selection.
Yes, well, you mentioned, Thomas, the title of the catalog, Y Historiata. Our story takes the name from the commission in Guam for the commemoration of the 500th anniversary, the first contact with Westerners, you know, which is the, the local perspective of the 1521, 2021, 500 year commemoration. The pieces that were selected and included in the exhibit include very compelling ones. In Madrid, they have in that museum, the Museum of Anthropology, the pieces of the 1887 colonial exhibit of the Philippines and Micronesia. The Spanish colonial government at the time organized an exhibition about those territories, that at the time a colonial territory, and until this day they still preserve some of the pieces that were exhibited there, and which at that time they were just of no of having the value of a day-to-day objects. For example, woven baskets, a sling, a camu. So they're a metati, and now they have testimonial value, and in some cases, like in the case of the sling, they have unique historical value because they're the only known samples to have survived the passage of time. So those items have been included in the exhibit, and then the staff of the museum had made a fantastic job in identifying a number of pieces that were in the collections of the museum, but they had not been cataloged as being part of the 1887 exhibit. And these are two machetes that were made in the 1800s in Guam. For Saipan, one specific pair of sandals, of dogas, that they were exhibited in 1887, and they are in pristine condition. So those were included are exhibited in the museum as we are speaking. The exhibit is going to be open until March 6th, after 3 months, and then it will close. We're also working with the museum, proposing that we can have that exhibit traveling around different museums around the world. Maybe not the same exhibit, but a smaller version of it. Let me mention one more thing, Thomas. There are other pieces of outstanding value that have to do with the contemporary artistic expression of the Chamorro people. It comes to mind the copies of the art of Rick Castro, Guam-based artist, and also original wood carvings of a colleague of ours at the University of Guam, Dr. Melissa Taitano, who has done extremely beautiful wood carvings representing the legends and the creational legends of the Mariana Islands and of Guam. And she generously offered them for the exhibit. In fact, the cover of the catalog, Historiata, it reproduces one of these carvings in color.
And what is the value of having this international exhibit, and possibly, as you alluded to, having more of these around the world? What can that type of exchange bring for us here in the Marianas?
Well, thank you, Thomas. For us at Mark, this is one aspect that we cannot emphasize enough. It serves as a platform of exposure and international community of the vibrant culture of the Chamorro people. It also serves reminds the idea that the Chamorro culture is not a Guam-based culture, but it has a larger expansion. It's the culture of the Mariana Islands, including Guam. If we talk of the Mariana Islands in historical terms, no? These exhibits like this have that value of promoting, as I mentioned, not only the existence and the bursting of creativity of the contemporary Chamorro culture, but at the same time appeals to the curiosity of the visitors and promotes also tourism in that sense, because It's a platform that attracts the interest of people that initially may not be exposed to the Chamorro culture, and through the eyes of this exhibit, they will see it with firsthand. And at the same time, well, there's a number of topics related to political status or challenges with environmental preservation that the mere fact that of putting the Chamorro culture in the radar of peoples around the world serves as a platform also of promoting the Chamorro voice in those fields, in those aspects.
And just my last question before we let you go. It says here the initiative was fully funded by the Spanish government through different institutions and universities. As you mentioned, the exhibit will remain open until March 6th. What's the reception so far? What have you heard from those who've seen the exhibit in person?
Oh, very positive, very positive. We attended the opening along with a small delegation coming from Guam, and we were thrilled to see that there's a number of people. Well, as the museum is telling us, no, they receive visitors every day. And I have to say that the museum has done a tremendous job in putting together the exhibit, the layout in the museum itself. It's very interesting, very. It somehow guides the visitors through the history in chronological terms, and makes it easier to the visitor to understand and to get a full picture of what is the Chamorro culture throughout history and all the way until today. The responses we have gathered so far are very positive, very positive.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add that I might not have touched on?
No, Thomas, thank you for your interest on this. And just to remind everyone that the catalog, both in the original Spanish and in the English translation, can be fully downloadable for free at the website of the Ministry of Culture of Spain. So if one Google Viva Chamorro exhibit Ministerio de Cultura, we'll find the proper link. And the catalog is, as I mentioned, it can be downloaded for free with just one click away.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. My pleasure. Si Diyos mase.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pacific Matters. We'll see you right here next week.